candidate, but understandably, if many questions are asked of one individual, that may not be easy. All comments are timed. Our timer will turn on the yellow light indicating 15 seconds remaining in their time. Once the red light goes on, candidates will have 5 seconds to conclude, and if they are still speaking at that point, their mic will be turned off. It's very effective. We will provide cards on which you may write your questions. If you have your own pen or pencil, please use that. Otherwise, we do have a few available. Please write legibly and hold them up for collection. We reserve the right to edit questions for brevity, relevance, taste, and to combine questions that are of a similar nature. And as always, we seem to get more questions than we have time for, so please do not be disappointed if you do not hear your question, your specific question asked. Around 8:45 p.m., we will allow questions from the floor, and we have an open mic for that, I guess, do we? An open mic?
We'll move one of the mics from the table.
Okay, good, thank you. Finally, at about 9:20, we will wrap up the meeting with closing remarks from the candidates. I ask and expect that the audience and the candidates be respectful of one another in the proceedings this evening. So, let's get started.
Lorraine?
Yes. It's two, I gave it to you. Oh, Alan, have you got any way of fixing that? Okay, opening statements are 1 minute, and all the other questions are 2.
I had a request that you read out the name of the Green Party candidate, if you can read that.
The Green Party candidate's name is Subhadarshi Tripathi. He's not here. So that's his name. So I thank you. I will now ask Sam to start us off. And we have some questions here from the group. Yes. Oh, yes, opening statements. Sorry, yeah.
Hello. Good evening, and thank you for being over here. My name is Sam Chandola, and I am the candidate with the BC Conservatives. I'm running because I have a 1-year-old daughter, and when I look to the future she'll have, I get worried. I'm worried about the level of provincial debt that we're going to be leaving our future generations. I'm worried about the kind of job she'll have when she'll grow up. I'm worried if she'll be able to afford to live in the same community that she's growing up in. My background is as a technology entrepreneur. I've built companies, scaled companies, sold companies. I've created jobs, I've balanced budgets, and I know how to get the job done. I'm looking to bring my skill set to public service to help solve some of the largest problems facing our province right now: the economy, the provincial deficit, healthcare crisis, housing crisis. Orange light. And I'm hoping to be able to bring the skill set to help solve our biggest problems and to help realize the potential of our community. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Susie Chant, and I am your candidate with the BC NDP. I've had the honor of being your MLA for the last 4 years, and I hope very much to do that job again with you in the next 4 years. I'm really grateful to be speaking to you on the unceded territory of the Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh Nations, and I'm very grateful always for the stewardship of this land, our waters, and our air. So my background, as a lot of you know, is I am a nurse by profession. I had 40 years in the Navy Reserves with the Reserve Military, and I've been a member of this community. I've lived in Lynn Valley since 1988, and I was born in Lionsgate Hospital just after it opened. Shh. So I've been around this area for a long time, and I've brought my kids up here. The reason I'm in this position is I believe in people, and that's my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to read because this isn't my strong suit. Hello, my name is Mitchell Baker. I'm running as an independent for MLA. I've been a resident of North Vancouver my entire 55 years. I'm married with 2 teenage daughters. I have a construction company that I've run for the past 33 years, building single-family residences and some commercial properties. I'm running because I'm dissatisfied as how we're being governed with rising taxes and waning services. We are falling further and further into debt. We've mortgaged this province and our kids and our own futures well beyond what feels like recovery at this point. Many people have asked why I'm running as an independent, and they're concerned of me splitting the vote. To split the vote, there would have to be 2 people on this side of what I'm doing. I'm running as a centrist candidate. I'm a fiscally responsible individual with a deep socially rooted conscience. I have my own beliefs and ideas, but that could be changed given any given subject with the more research I do. I believe that we need to stop spending. We need to tighten our belts.
All right. We got some prepared questions here. I'm going to ask Sam, and then we'll go down the line. If elected, what issues would you focus on as the urgent priorities for North Vancouver Seymour residents?
Hello. So I've been living in North Vancouver for 5 years now. Not as long as my Susie and my friend Mitch over there. But what I realize is how much we've just accepted the level of congestion and traffic we have here in North Van. I try to get home to my 1-year-old daughter, and at times I'm not able to meet her bedtime because I'm stuck behind all the cars that are trying to get on the bridge or get off the bridge. And last week, I had to say goodnight to her on FaceTime. That's not the kind of future I want for myself or for any family here in North Vancouver. The number one issue for me that I want to be looking to work on is traffic. We need to solve our traffic congestion. The reason you have a home on the North Shore and I have a home on the North Shore is because 60, 70 years ago, somebody had the vision and the foresight to say, we're going to build a bridge connecting the Lower Mainland, connecting Vancouver to North Van. And that's how we are all here right now. It's been 60 years since that bridge was built. It was built for the population of the 1960s. Our population has grown several fold since then. We need a new bridge. There is no other way to solve this problem. Anything else is a band-aid solution. A new bridge for both increased capacity for vehicles as well as transit. We also need rail here on the North Shore, not another bus line. So number one priority, traffic. Number two priority for me is going to be fixing our healthcare crisis. We're not the first country in the world or the first place in the world that is having these long wait times. Other countries have had that. Other countries have solved it. And we're saying, let's look at them and actually find a way to implement activity-based funding that's worked in Sweden, Netherlands, Ireland, and see how we can implement that here in North Vancouver. The NDP has had 7 years to fix traffic, fix healthcare, fix housing. We have seen some action, but it's been a little, too late. And we're hoping to bring some common sense change and solutions here to North Van.
Take this one, be ready.
Thank you so much for the question. So I've been outdoor knocking, out talking to people, seeing people, listening to people, and the things that come up are healthcare, are affordability, housing. Those are the things that come up on the North Shore. Yes, traffic is part of the discussion, and I can't deny that. But the ones that are worrying people more are health and affordability. And housing is really close behind. So with the NDP, we've done a lot of work in all three of those areas, and of course there's lots more to do. In health, we've looked at augmenting our nursing group. Over 8,000 new nurses in the last 2 years have been registered in British Columbia. Over 850 new family doctors in the last 2 years have been up and working in British Columbia. You can see in the hospital that we've got the new tower that will be opening for patients in February of 25. Yeah, that's next February, thank you. And we are doing a lot of different things to try and make things better in the health field. And there is much more to do, and the work is moving forward. There will be looking at the internationally trained professionals, making sure that they can come to Canada and use their skills that they have learned, because we need those people. So internationally trained doctors, internationally trained nurses, other healthcare providers. We're working towards making affordability better for people. I know it's tough for all of us. Recently, it was announced that we'll be looking at a $500 tax credit per adult in a household, making sure that there's a little bit more money in the pocket. There's been many other things done towards making things more affordable. You may have noticed, if you look across the country, that our ICBC prices are much lower, our automobile insurance, and that's it. For me, it's a red light. Thank you. More to come.
Thank you. Obviously the subjects are all going to be the same. Traffic is number one. We need a bridge. We haven't had a lane increase onto the North Shore since 1961. As Samarth pointed out, we've tripled the number of people going across that bridge in that time. We have 4 on-ramps within 1 kilometer of the head of the bridge. We stirred that up and made a bunch more traffic lights, and somehow that didn't change the problem. So we spent $250 million doing that, which would have much better spent actually putting together with a bridge. With healthcare per capita, we spend the same amount of money generally as countries that are in the top 5 in public healthcare, yet we're 30th in the world. That means we have the money to do it. It's being allocated improperly. The same is happening with education. The same is happening with housing. We have a 35% increase in this province in our population since 2000, and strangely enough, the amount of land available has dropped by 35%, and the costs have gone up because of that. Our government has continually mandated changes to the building code, which has increased the cost of building by over 200% since the year 2000. So when you wonder why it's so expensive to live in this province, that's why. We're running out of land that's available privately, and it's costing way too much to build. Thank you.
I'm going to ask Susie this question first, and then we'll go down and back. Currently, Metro is an unelected body with no significant accountability. What, if anything, would you do to change that?
Thank you very much for the question. Metro Vancouver has been an entity that has been doing a lot of work around the Greater Vancouver area. And when they get together, the mayors work on various topics and priorities and put together a plan so that hopefully the various communities that become Metro Vancouver are all moving forward in a good direction. Currently, there's some problems with this big piece of concrete that everybody knows what I'm talking about, the sewage treatment plant. Problems in that it is not functioning. It has cost a lot of money to get where it is, and it's going to cost a lot more money to get to a point where it's a useful treatment plant. Right now, there is an audit going on that has been initiated by the Metro Vancouver under the direction of Mayor Hurley. And that audit is going to have a number of questions asked. Once that audit is completed, then we will have a really good outline of what the problem is and how many options of solutions there are and what the associated costs with those solutions. In the event that the audit does not come up with a reasonable plan and a reasonable move forward point, the province will look at what are other steps that we can support in. We also need to look for some support from the feds. They're the ones that indicated initially that we had to increase our sewage treatment plant to a certain level. And so we're going to be looking for support from there as well. And we have been lobbying with the feds to get that support. So moving forward, we will be closely scrutinizing what's going on. And taking steps as necessary.
The question was actually, what would you do about making them more accountable? So, Mitchell, did you want to take this?
Yeah, thank you. So as an unelected body, it should be being run as a business. Metro Vancouver, working for government in general is generally the most lucrative proposition you can do as a contractor, which shouldn't be the case. There needs to be, Metro Vancouver should be run as a business. It get the best price, get the best value. And that's not what's happening, as we can see. I understand what happened down at the poo plant, if you want to call it that. But Metro Vancouver, the people that are our quote unelected group, they're overseen by a group of, they weren't elected to that, but there's a group of people that are in Metro Van that sit as elected, but not elected for that particular purpose. If we want to have an elected group, which I don't think is the right move, I think we need a government overseer, which is generally what's happening. It's just not being held tightly enough by the people that have been elected into the position and then are appointed into the Metro Van model. But generally what's happening is that there's runaway costs because it's not being run as an appropriately or tightly as a business would be run. And everything in government essentially should be a business with a heart. So it's kind of and I understand it's kind of a convoluted way of saying what I'm trying to get at, and in my head it makes sense, but maybe out here it doesn't. So tighter controls is what has to happen. That can come from elected officials, but they have to be willing to step up and say, this is not going to happen. We're going to control the people that we're actually paying to do this job, and we need to control that spending model as if we were running a business because it's the public's money. We can go anywhere else we want for money to any other government, but at the end of the day, it's still the money coming out of your wallets that we're paying all this with.
So I will address the accountability part of the question. How can we make Metro Vancouver more accountable? Well, the first step, the current audit that is being done by Metro Vancouver itself. That's kind of like the fox guarding the hen house. So we're going to be calling for an independent audit by a third party that actually gets to the bottom of what happened and why do all of us have to now pay a toilet tax. Number two, the Office of the Provincial Auditor. This is a provincial level body that was actually shut down by the NDP government in 2020. The Office of the Provincial Auditor had the responsibility of overseeing projects such as the one by Metro Vancouver. And that oversight was removed. And unfortunately, that has led us to the mess that we are in right now. The last thing I will leave over here is, if we form government, there has to be a discussion internally with one very simple question. Is the Metro Vancouver model working? Is the Metro Vancouver model working? There's lots of pros and there's lots of cons. I don't have an answer on whether what's working, what's not working right now, but what I can say is that we do need to get to the bottom of this. We do need to talk to the people who are working on the Metro Vancouver governance body as well, and look at other models. The GTA has a model, where they've standardized regulations across their little communities over there as well. Is that a better model for Metro Vancouver to adopt? Those are some of the questions that we'll be looking for.
Susie would like to rebut.
Just real quick, the Office of the there's a Auditor General of the province. His name was Michael Pickup. He's just retired. We've got another one coming, and it was not shut down in 2020. I've been in meetings with him as part of the Financial Committee and part of General Accounts Committee for the last 4 years. He's lovely, but he's there. Thanks.
Okay. I'm going to start with Mitchell now. This is long, so does your party have any concerns about the lack of transparency on the decision-making process and the apparent lack of capability to manage major projects within budget? I think we've answered this one almost. In the specifically the North Shore Wastewater Processing Plant, and if so, what would you do about it? If not, why not? I think it's been asked and answered, so, okay. We'll just, next one. What would your party do to mitigate the $590 and maybe growing annual charge for 30 years to North Shore taxpayers for the estimated costs to complete the build of the North Shore Wastewater Plant? What would you do about the $590 that we are currently facing?
So I think the answer to that question is, if you were to spend that money, and not only did you get a sewage treatment plant, but you also got healthcare, and you got a bridge, and you got education, which is what we're all paying for now, would that other $600, would that really be the cross to bear? Our money is being spent inappropriately, and we aren't getting the services we want. I, for one, know that if somebody said, hey, with $600, but we're going to revamp the whole system, we're going to make that money work better for what we're doing. The $600 is not what's breaking our daily bank here. It's the fact that where it's going. They're taking the money, the money's being taken from us, and it's not being put back in the way that we need it to be. So to suggest that it's $600 and it's only for that plant, that's one thing, if nothing else changes. If it's $600 and we can change that whole system, we're not getting away from the $600. We know what it's going to cost. Whether it comes from the federal government, we're still paying for it. There's going to be a $10 billion plant built in Iona, and we're going to say, they're going to look at us and say, hey, where's your portion of that? We have to pay for the infrastructure. We've been paying, we haven't been receiving it. And the only way to cure that and make people feel satisfied that they're getting value for their money, for their $600, is to fix the other things down the line that are causing this problem.
Unfortunately, the money has already been spent. The $3.8 billion have already been spent on the wastewater plant right now. I wish, like Mitchell does over here, that that money had gone towards a bridge or schools or hospitals, but that ship's already sailed at this point of time, and we are left with the bill. So what can we actually do? What can we actually do to make that bill a little easier for everybody? Well, two things. One, right now, the current proposal has residents of the North Shore paying the highest share of tax across everybody in the Lower Mainland. We don't think that's fair. The North Shore wastewater plant was not there just to treat sewage in the North Shore. Everybody in the Lower Mainland was supposed to benefit. Has made a mistake. Why are people on the North Shore the only ones paying for the mistake? We are going to propose that everybody in the Lower Mainland pays an equitable share of the North Shore wastewater plant budget. So that should help bring costs in the North Shore a little bit lower, increase them a little bit on the Lower Mainland. Two, need to look to see if we can get help from the federal government. The federal government was also a partner in the North Shore wastewater plant under the Metro Vancouver model. You knock on the door and said, listen, we did not make this decision. This decision was taken by Metro Vancouver with support from the federal government. Please come in and pay your fair share of this bill that you are burdening us with. The last thing I'll add over here is the Conservative platform is a platform of economic progress. We are proposing that we go and develop the natural resources we have up north in BC as well. And we're proposing that we charge companies an infrastructure fee to actually use our resources, similar to how Norway has been doing since the 1970s, and use that infrastructure fee to not just pay for our aging infrastructure, but also to help pay for failed projects like the North Shore wastewater plant. Thank you.
I think you're starting next time. Well, are we tired of the wastewater plant yet? In so many ways. Anyway, as I was saying earlier, the audit is in process. Once we have information that tells us what's going on, how it got there, what needs to be done, because we We are not sure that that plant, where it is right now, can be resuscitated. So once we know what is going on and what's being done, then we're going to know more about how to mitigate the 590. At this point, that is an estimate that has come out. It is, there is still more information to come back. And as I say, both at the provincial level and at the federal level, we are aware, absolutely aware. I have made the province very aware, thank you very much, of what the concerns are. And we're looking for some relief from both provincial and federal sides. I can't make any promises at this point, but what I can promise you is that it'll be watched very carefully, and I will be absolutely advocating to have some support in A, mitigating it, and B, as my friend suggested, getting it so that it's a more equitable pay arrangement among Metro Vancouver rather than the North Shore paying the lion's share. Thank you so much.
This next question, Sam will start. Seymour residents find transportation access and egress to our community is becoming more difficult. What short-term and long-term options would you propose to improve transportation in Seymour? Will you support long-term annual funding to fund TransLink and improve transit service in the Seymour area? Starting with Sam.
So I've already talked about the bridge. Bridge is a key part of why I'm running right now as well, and that is a big part of the transportation plan. Going to the next part of the question is on TransLink's funding. TransLink is currently facing a $600 million deficit, and there is risk that TransLink services could be cut by almost 50% in the next year or two if nothing is not done. We are committing to come in and give TransLink a 2-year stopgap funding so that there's no service cuts, not just in Seymour or on the North Shore, but anywhere in the Lower Mainland. And existing plans for expansion can continue. And the existing plans do include additional bus services to the Seymour area. I met with TransLink 2 weeks ago and had a detailed overview of all the routes that they were planning to expand as well. The other bigger problem we need to think about is how do we stop this problem from happening again? How do we stop TransLink coming back to us in 3 years and saying, well, we have another $600 million deficit over here right now? We need to look at innovative ways to fund transit and TransLink here on the North Shore and beyond. We're looking at a couple of innovative models. One, TransLink already has some limited ability to improve crown land along transit corridors. We want to give them more rights to do so they can A, not only generate revenues, but B, build housing while doing so, which is something that our province really needs right now. 2, look at new and innovative ways to fund TransLink in terms of having people who drive electric vehicles pay a gas tax or a road tax. I've been driving an EV for 10 years. Nobody's ever asked me for a single cent to pay into TransLink. If you drive a gas car, you're funding TransLink. People like me need to pay their fair share. We need to have ways where people who are driving EVs, when they're plugging in, there's a little bit of money that then goes into TransLink as well. On the whole, if we need better access to transportation in the Seymour area, we do need to look at funding TransLink in a more sustained and capacity, and that's what we are promising to do as a part of our platform. Thank you.
Can I have a green light? Thank you. Go. I don't know if anybody heard the announcement that Bowen was making last week, I think, about the rapid bus transit that they're putting in place from Metrotown through Park Royal. So what that's going to do is create a solid link of high frequency transportation that will go right across the lower spine of the North Shore. So what we'll be looking for after that is basically what I call hub and spoke, which I'm sure you guys do as well, out of places like Phibbs, out of places like Lonsdale Quay, and out of places like Park Royal. So for the North, I've been going around the Seymour area for years now in a variety of ways. And what we're looking at is having the spokes come out, Capilano University already is a big area that there is a lot of transit going to. They need some more. The lineups are huge, but they're getting there. What we also need is a greater frequency of smaller buses going out into the Seymour area that allows people to travel much more easily and a lot more with higher frequency. Right now, the frequency is not very good, and it pushes a lot of people back to their cars. The other thing we'll be adding is seniors riding for free. And we've already got the kids up to the age of 12 riding for free. So what that is also looking to do is to increase the ridership on the buses, which then allows the TransLink to say, oh, look, the buses get used, so let's keep that frequency going, because that's one of the challenges. So what we're working towards is a much better spoke model coming out from, quiet.
So according to all models, this region has one of the top transit networks in North America. I was surprised to hear that. I've lived in Deep Cove for a number of years. I lived on Riverside, where there was no bus service my entire life, and there still isn't. I walked to school every day, the 1.5 miles up and down Riverside. So I understand that transits can be very difficult, and it's very difficult to fund something that services so few people. I tried once to go downtown from when I lived in the Cove. It's an 1.5 hours, and then I couldn't get home, and I ended up taking a cab. So it doesn't really help, and it pushes you back into your car. So, which is exactly what we're trying to avoid. The stopgap measure that has been provided since COVID to the TransLink of the $600 million and ever decreasing, and then this year they're talking about stopping it altogether. Part of it was coming from the federal government, part of it was coming from the provincial government. And you know, as Seymour said, there is a commitment from his party to do more stopgap measures there. We need to fund the model better. We also need to, unfortunately, raise the price of actually riding the bus as much as it seems counterintuitive. The cost of fuel has gone up, the cost of electricity has gone up, the cost of capital has gone up. Everything has gone up, except the fares haven't gone up accordingly. So as much as we're going to give away, and we should have 12-year-olds and down riding that bus for free, and I agree that seniors have paid their dues, let's let them ride for free. But in the middle part there has to be some funding that comes from the people that use it. It's more expensive to do everything else in this province except for ride the bus. And if we have to fund a model that's going to increase, we have to ask for some money for it.
I'm now going to go to the audience questions, and this one is directed towards Susie. With regard to the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure's intention to take away the Main Street through lane on Dollarton and allocate it to bridge traffic, forcing area residents to get in line with all other vehicles, we now know that this proposal was in the works since 2019 and was only forestalled by the district's opposition until about 2 weeks ago, when Modi unilaterally decided to proceed with it. You are on record as not knowing anything about this. As the elected MLA for this riding since 2020, why would you not be aware of a proposal that would so greatly impact area residents?
Wow, thank you. So I learned about this proposal the Thursday before the Saturday that the writ dropped. You're absolutely right. I don't know why I didn't know anything about it at all, because it's something that has a profound impact on our community. And if I had known about it, I would have had the opportunity to go through channels and say, hey, whoa, wait a minute. This is not meeting the needs of my community. I found out, fortunately, because I got a phone call after the council meeting on Monday night. I got a phone call Tuesday morning. This is after the writ dropped. I'm now a candidate, not an MLA anymore. I don't have any authority to talk to any of the ministries. And we worked, all of us, the council, the mayor, myself, through talking to people that hopefully could talk to other people, to put a full hold on this so that it could be looked at collaboratively with the community as opposed to an arbitrary decision. I don't know why I didn't know about it. I don't know why it wasn't brought forward to me. Maybe the staff from council could have brought it forward through council to me. I don't know. I was not advised until it was basically happening, and I'm very grateful for everybody that worked together to get it stopped until we can get more reasonable approach to it. Thank you.
I have another one addressed to Mitchell. If elected as an independent, do you believe that the sitting party would work with you, and how will you make things better?
I believe we're headed for a minority government on one side or the other as an independent. And if there's any other independents, we would have the opportunity to cherry pick what we felt was important to vote on or what was the right vote. Sitting as a group of independents, like 5 or 6, or even as alone, I have a strong enough voice that I think I'll be heard. I'm passionate about this community. This community is where I was born and raised, and I will defend it and fight for it until the day I die. Hopefully not tonight. Holy cow. Anyway, I've been a consensus builder my whole life. I've been in business for 33 years. I take an architect's drawings, I have a client, and I have a bank, and somehow we make it all work with 400 or 500 people over the period of a year. Everybody needs to come out happy. I'm lucky enough to have some of my clients in this room right now. But being able to build a consensus is the strongest part of my life. To be able to listen to what people want and to be able to process that and listen to all different sides and put it together into a package that everybody can understand and most can agree on. I think that that is my strongest suit, and that's why I feel I'd be good in government as an independent.
I'm going to give Sam a question here. What is your position on road tolling as one way out of paying for new transportation infrastructure?
You don't even need to start that. No road tolls. That's the answer. I know, I've seen the ads online as well that says the Conservatives want to bring back the road tolls. It's wrong, it's false, it's misinformation. Never in our platform have we said we want to bring road tolls in. In fact, we've expressly said we are not bringing any road tolls. How are we planning on paying for infrastructure? I will repeat, we want to look at the Norway model. They have a sovereign wealth fund. They charge large companies an infrastructure fee when they use the natural resources. And that's what we're looking to do here in BC as well. No road tolls, nein, nicht, none.
I'll ask this one of Susie. We need more apprentices and more spaces for learning. This is improving too slowly. So what would your government's policy be on increasing trades training?
Thank you very much. That's a great question, and it's one I'm really happy to answer. We've, as people are aware, a lot of the apprenticeship programs have restarted now, and we are in process of graduating new Red Seal journeymen in a variety of trades now, which is terrific. And in the future, we want to continue to build more seats in a variety of the trades that we need in construction, in shipbuilding. We've got 3,800 people at C-SPAN. We've got so many different areas that we need people. The expectation is over the next 10 years that we'll have over 1 million job places. And so we've been opening up seats in the various technical schools, in the various, there's also some other schools that are put together by the unions and by the construction entities that are bringing people in, encouraging people to join the trades, supporting people to join the trades, supporting women to join the trades. Our numbers are coming up with women in the trades. It used to be about 8 or 9%. We're now about 12%, 13%, and it's still going up. We need people in our trades. We need those training positions, and we're opening them up because this is critical for the continued growth of our province. And our province is doing a very good job at growing and developing. Thank you.
Mitchell, did you want to answer that? Do you want to take that one on?
Sure. Part of I am a training facility as well. We have carpenters that come in. Most of the guys in our crew have come either as carpenters to me or they've come in as apprentices. I've apprenticed probably 35 guys in my career. Where we're at right now is I've unfortunately had to lay people off for the first time in 33 years, whereas 5 years ago we were hunting for people. We're now getting rid of people. So when we're talking about trades programs that we're bringing people into, as 3,800 people who are welders or whatever trades happening at C-SPAN, every one of those people now works for the government. Let that sink in. It's called C-SPAN. It's not called the BC government, but every one of those people is paid out of your tax dollars. So we're building industries with tax dollars, supported by tax dollars, when we're really needing trades that are, I can't have people in my trade anymore. I don't need any more people in my trade because building is quiet. Across the land, building is quiet. Permits are down because building is quiet. Wages haven't increased, but the costs have. Why is that? That's our biggest problem. When this comes back, then we're going to need the people. But right now, unfortunately, we don't. We're 8 years too late. At some point, we're going to retire and we will run out of people. And Susie's right on that. We need those training programs. But right now, we're a little bit upside down on that.
So I'm not as experienced on the trades and housing as my friend Mitch is over here. I build things on the cloud. But what we need to look at from a trades perspective is like, let's go to the root cause of education. Capilano University told me that when adjusted for inflation, their annual funding from the provincial government has actually gone down since the year 2002. They're training less of what we need right now in the province. And we've come out and said, look, we need to realign our post-secondary education funding to the trades, to the programs that actually BC needs right now. I've read a couple of studies that say, look, one of the reasons there's many reasons why we have a housing crisis. One of them is that we don't have enough skilled tradespeople right now who actually can help build all the housing we need as fast as we need. Again, reallocate funding at the post-secondary level to the trades that we need and the professions that we need and help solve our crisis at the same time. That's all I'll have to say on this matter, and I will defer to my friend's wisdom on the rest.
Thank you. Here's another one for Susie. Given the negative results of decriminalization of drugs in BC and Oregon, are you individually or is your party backing off on this? If not, why not? And there's two more questions here, so let's you have to go to the first one. Yeah.
So decriminalization. What was done with decriminalization? I was on the health committee for 3 years, and it was a remarkably painful place to be. We were hearing from people right across the province, and we were tasked with trying to figure out how to reduce the death rate from 6 a day to 5 a day. And we heard from many, many people who had many, many aspects of drug use, drug overdose, toxic drugs, speak with us. Decriminalization was one in a toolbox to move people from the criminal justice system into the health system, so that when people are carrying the drugs that they use for themselves, i.e. personal use, that they are not subject to criminal justice, they are moved into the health system. What this has done, or what it is working towards doing, and will continue to work towards doing, is reducing the backups in the justice system that is around the drug use and the small quantities. It allows us to work towards dealing with the gangs that are behind the drug use, and it allows for people to get access to the help that they need to deal with the drug use that they have. There's a lot of work, more work to be doing in that area, and it is critically important. Thank you so much.
While you're on your feet, Susie, I'll ask the second question, and then I've got a similar question to ask the other
So
two. So you
second
stay
question
up.
to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is directed toward you. Your party talks a good story on environment and climate change, but what have you actually done that has had a meaningful impact? Please don't tell me, the writer, a carbon tax on individuals does anything but impoverish us.
Okay, I won't tell you. Perfect. So I'm actually going to use a very local story at the moment. When I was first elected, I had a person come to me and say, "We have a problem." "What's our problem?" I said. And she said, "Our owls are dying. Our owls and our raptors are dying. I'm finding they're being found in the bush, they're being found around buildings, they're dying." And so what it turns out is the type of rodenticide that was being used at that point was a warfarin-based substance, which is a blood thinner. So what it did was it killed the rodents, but slowly over about 8 days. And they slowed down, and so the raptors, the owls, the eagles, would come down and grab them, and they were very easy for them to get. I was very fortunate that I had somebody I could talk to. His name was George Heyman. And I said, "What are we doing about this?" And when I talked to him, he said, "Look, there's many other places in BC that are having this problem." So what ended up happening was the regulations around rodenticide were changed so that you can no longer buy that stuff and you can no longer use it without this particular training if you can get it. So that is one very small thing that our area has done for the whole of British Columbia. And there's a whole series of things like that going on and have been going on and are being promoted to keep going. We've got many, many projects happening that are saying, how do we help our environment? How do we help our climate? Green technology that we're using. Hydro electricity is terrific. Wind and solar, all there. Thank you very much. I'm done.
Okay. I have a similar question. Yes. I have a similar question from the audience and I'll give it to Sam and Mitchell. Sam, you want to start with this. Please explain your own and your party's position and policies relating to climate change.
So I think what the NDP did was great for the owls, but not really meaningful for climate change. Currently, the way the NDP government is saying we're going to tackle climate change is the only actual solution they have proposed is the carbon tax, which is a tax on our tiny population of 5 million people, which does nothing in a meaningful capacity to reduce global emissions. BC has 64 megatons of carbon emissions a year. China's is 13,000, India's is 3,000. If there's 1,000 people who are smoking in a room and one person quits smoking, we still have a smoke problem. If we truly want to have any impact on climate change, and I do believe we do, I've got a 1-year-old daughter. I want to make sure she grows up in a world where she's not always threatened by climate emergencies and wildfires. We need to think about ways on how we in our region can solve this problem on a global scale. My background is in technology. I'm always looking at technology to solve problems. BC needs to invest in scientific research and development to become a world leader in carbon capture technologies, then export that technology to China, export that technology to India and the United States, and help bring down carbon emissions globally to actually now have a meaningful impact in this scenario, while creating clean, green, well-paying tech jobs here for our citizens. For all that we've heard about, carbon tax and climate change from my friends in the NDP, it's mostly been virtue signaling. It's a solution that maybe makes you and I feel good about reducing our carbon footprint, but does not have a meaningful impact. And the solution we are proposing is one that actually can bring real change.
That's a hot topic. That was my joke. So locally inside of the metro area, we concentrate on climate change based on an electric car. We try to electrify everything. There's a bigger problem. We only live in 2.5% of this province. There's 97.5% of this province that we don't live in, which is suffering as well. We have massive forest fires that we put out, leaves 100 years of fuel on the ground, as we learned at the BC Wildlife Federation. They had a meeting, and it was a great educational experience. We need to be concentrating if we're going to cut our carbon, pardon me, on the people that use the most. Technology hasn't caught up to where we need it to be. Dump trucks, cement trucks, transport trucks, trains, they're diesel over electric. They're still burning fossil fuels. We need to be able to provide enough electricity to do that, but we also need the technology to be able to turn these things if we're going to make them electric. We actually need that technology, and we can't just force that upon people. I drive a diesel car. I could choose not to. I'd had an electric car 10 years ago. I could easily choose not to. I'm paying the price. I should probably be paying more as a carbon tax for choosing what I choose to drive. But some of those industries that don't have an option should not be. And the money that is being collected, if I don't use the mic, is that good? Should go directly to that reason.
Okay. We'll start with Sam on this one. What would you do if elected about the Keith Road addiction and homeless development? Why did current leadership not listen to the large public opposition to public safety?
Yes. So apparently the Keith Road proposal had 6 days of public hearings, the largest in the history of the DNV right now. More than 120 people came out not against helping people, but against the specifics of the project. And I'll talk about that in a second as well. And over 2,000 people signed a petition saying this project should not be where it is. Now, let's be clear over here. These people are not saying that we don't need to help those who are addicted. Nobody's saying that. What these people are saying is, this is a neighborhood with families and children, and if you want to have a location here that is supportive housing, at least make it dry. Don't make it a wet supportive housing project that actually allows open drug use. There are 5 units of complex care in that center. When I first learned I learned about this when I was out knocking on doors, talking to people, and I knocked on some doors, and he asked me, what are you going to do about this Keith Road project? And he filled me in all of the details. I then went ahead and I met a lot of the people who signed the petition. I met the organizers, and we released a statement saying, look, we are against this project, not in the principle of helping people, but against the specifics. We are in favor of helping those who need help by giving them dry supportive housing and giving them access to rehabilitation. If we are elected, and by the way, this is, I know this was passed with the DNV, but the funding for this project is coming from the province. So the provincial government has a role to play in it. And we are saying we're going to come in and remove funding for the project until it's made either dry or converted to a rehab site or move to a location that is away from families and children.
Thank you so much. And this is a tough subject for all of us, because one of the things that all of us need to recognize is there are people in all communities that need supportive housing, whether it's a brain injury, whether it's an addiction problem, whether it's a mental health problem. Folks need a safe place that is safe for them, that is safe for the staff, and is safe for the community around it to live in a way that works for all of us, for our community as well. Sam talked about the municipal process that it went through. A lot of discussion. One of the things that came out of that was security is important. It's very important for the surrounding neighborhood. It's also very important for the folks inside. And it is needed. I don't know if anybody's ever gone through detox, or if anybody's ever gone through rehabilitation, or if anybody's lived and worked in a psychiatric environment. But those places need skilled people that are therapeutically able to work with folks and help them get themselves sorted out. Sometimes it's meals and hydration and medication and sleep. Getting those things sorted out, then we find out who the person really is and where they can go from there. Right now, we've got people living in tents. We've got people living in, we've got people living in recreational vehicles. We need a safe place where they can be sorted. This is important, and security is important to all of us. Thank you.
Sam has something to say.
Yeah. I have so much to say on this topic, I just have to use the card again. I just want to point out that Stanford University just did a study on the drug crisis in Canada, where they compared death rates, from the drug crisis, rates of recovery as well in various provinces. If we compare the results they had for BC and Alberta, where BC has focused under the current NDP government a lot on safe supply, and Alberta has focused a lot more on rehabilitation, they found that there were less deaths in Alberta. They actually found that there was more record of people getting access to safe housing, supportive housing, and getting access to rehabilitation in Alberta. So what I'm trying to say over here is we have evidence, we have data. We do not need to follow ideology for the sake of following ideology around the drug crisis. We can actually look at data, numbers, models, see what's working, and try to implement the same here in BC. Thank you.
Can I get a minute here? Do I get a minute?
Go ahead.
All right.
Is this a rebuttal? No? Okay, first time. Okay.
So this is one of those instances where an independent would vote with the Conservatives. I don't believe that is the right location for a non-dry camp. I think that it was rushed through, and I think the municipality was put under some pressure to get some supportive housing, and I think that's an unfortunate result, is that it really affected some of the people in the neighborhood. I unfortunately have some people in my life who are addicts. I have some people in my life who are recovered addicts. Nobody recovered by doing drugs. They recovered by not doing drugs. And it's very difficult to tell somebody that you need to be in care or put them in involuntary care when they don't want to be there. But nobody can make that decision to stop while they're doing drugs or alcohol or whatever they're addicted to. Nobody can stop themselves while they're under that influence. They need the opportunity to be dry. If this is a dry place where we're going to go, where we can see the light, where we get to see through what one of my buddies called the pickle jar. It was all murky, and then he could see the sun through the pickle juice. That was his TSN turning point. Everybody needs that opportunity, and they can't do it under the influence of drugs.
Sam, if elected, will your party repeal the bill that prevents municipalities from making land use decisions? And that's Bill 44, etc.
We have announced policy that says that we will let municipalities opt in or opt out of Bill 44. Again, in going around and speaking to people, I spoke to a lot of people, from the housing industry, some people on council as well. And I found out some interesting stats. I love stats. Apparently, before Bill 44 was announced, the District of North Vancouver was already on track to not just meet its OCP provincial housing targets that were annually set up, but was almost doubling those housing targets. We were already on track to build all the housing that the government has asked us to build. And then what does the provincial government do? They come out in what I consider an act of government overreach and say, well, now we will let anybody build housing wherever they want. And look, housing is important. We all need housing. But we don't need to take planned development and throw that out the window for solving the current problem that we have. We are in a scenario now where Bill 44 is letting us build housing with no road infrastructure, with no water facilities or sewage facilities. We have, as municipalities have lost the advantage that they had, when a developer wanted to come in and get density, they could negotiate with him. The developer had to now pay for infrastructure or had to pay for community services. They've lost that as well. So orange light is on, so I'll just quickly repeat. We will let municipalities like the DNV opt out of Bill 44 if they want and get back to planned development, especially if they're meeting OCB targets.
Given that it was your government that implemented this policy, I don't know that the question applies to you. Could you give it to Mitchell, please? Thank you.
Thank you. So Bill C-44 is an interesting one. I think everybody thought, hey, we need houses, and everybody looked at Bill C-44 when it came in and said, yeah, let's get it moving. Hey, this is going to work. This is going to be great. Unfortunately, that's not the way life works. You don't just get to tell people that they should go to the bank and borrow a bunch of money and build 4 or 6 plexes on their property, and you can solve the housing crisis for the government. That's not the way the world's going to work. If they will repeal it, that's a great thing. It should be repealed. The District of North Vancouver made some wise decisions, and instead of having 4s and 6 plexes, said that each house could have a coach house and a basement suite. It gave them people the option to have 3 units on their property, but it doesn't force people to do it, and we should never be forced to build anything on our property, which is a big fear of mine, is that what happens is the government gets in and says, you need to solve our housing crisis, and you need to do it at your expense, and we'll tax you accordingly. So sorry, I lost my train of thought briefly. I was all excited there. So what happens here is, with Bill C-44, I think what it did is it opened up a lot of discussion about density, which I think is a good thing. I think that municipalities should be open to different kinds of density on properties, and they shouldn't limit people and just automatically say no, which is what's been happening for the last 20 years. So this has at least opened a conversation up.
Thank you. On a completely different topic, and I'll ask it of all of you. What is your stance on the SOGI curriculum and challenges faced by the LGBTQ plus community? I want to start with, pardon? What is your stance on the SOGI curriculum and challenges faced by the LGBTQ plus community? That's for everybody, starting with Sam.
SOGI has become a very hot button topic in BC right now. You're for SOGI or you're against SOGI. Let's take a step back and first understand how SOGI started and what was the intent behind SOGI. SOGI started off as an anti-bullying program. It was not about sexuality, it was not about gender. It started off as an anti-bullying program, and the leader of my party, John Rustad, actually voted for SOGI and signed it to get into place so that students would not be bullied in schools. Over the years, SOGI has evolved. SOGI has now become, like I said, a contentious issue where people are coming in and saying, oh, we're teaching our kids gender, sexuality, identity. The Conservative Party stance on SOGI is very clear. We have nothing against telling children that different families look different. We have nothing against telling children that different people have different genders. What we are against is taking parental rights away. All we are saying is if there's a conversation that is being had around SOGI, around gender, around sexuality, let the parent have the right to know. Government does not know best. Let's be fair. Children who go to in the foster care system often end up homeless, and that's the government system. Parents do have a right to be involved with their child's lives. Parents do have a right to know these momentous decisions. In this country, we don't let children vote till they get to a certain age, drink till they get to a certain age. So how are we expecting them to make these big decisions without parental involvement when they're 11, 12, 13 and not really know what they're talking about at this age? Thank you.
So 2 parts to the question. First part was stand on SOGI. So SOGI, for those that don't know, is sexual orientation and gender identity. And it is a teaching, it's a tool that's available to teachers in K through 12 to help work with kids that are in the classroom so that we look at a child as a part of the group. And so that we look at a child who perhaps has two parents of the same gender as a part of the group, so that we and our society and our community is able to make a child feel safe in their school environment, feel safe in their family environment, feel safe in their community. When my colleague here said that it was a anti-bullying tool, absolutely it is. Our LGBTQ plus community has long been very poorly represented at a government level, has also gone through a lot of challenges and a lot of stigma and a lot of horrifying things, quite frankly. And so in my stand is everybody is able to love who they want to love and be with who they want to be. And that is their business, and and we respect the way that they want to have their lives. Thank you so much.
So I didn't know a lot about it. So I walked into my kitchen and I said to my two teenage daughters, "What do you know about it? Educate me." I asked them about the composition in their classroom. One of my daughters has a lot of friends who are in the LGBTQ community, and we've known them, and they're great kids. We've known them, basically since kindergarten. So I asked her what she knew about it, and she didn't know a lot, which is interesting because everybody hears that it's in the schools and everybody's going to be pressed into this SOGI program. And I was like, okay, well, so I read it to her off the internet. This is what this means. And she's like, oh, well, that doesn't seem to happen. I said, well, their biggest concern is that people are talking about parental rights being taken away and that this could be held secretly from your child. The school could hold it secretly from the parents if they felt that they weren't going to be treated correctly. And she looks at me and she's like, well, some people don't have as stable a family as we do. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Holy cow. Sorry, yeah. So, and we've been lucky. We have a stable family. And some people have a stable family and they're still struggling. I don't think it's as simple as, do I believe in it or don't I? I think there's so many very faceted sections of the SOGI program. Anti-bullying, absolutely. Bullying for any reason is wrong, and certainly over sexual identity, it's awful.
This one is for Sam. North Vancouver is home to the highest concentration of film workers. I would imagine that's in the Lower Mainland or the province. I don't know. Anyway, the NDP has released a plan to increase the tax incentives to support this industry that generated $4.4 billion in revenue. The Conservatives have not yet developed an election platform 10 days before an election. How will you support an industry that employs 60,000 people?
So I have a background in the film industry as well. There was a point of time in my career when I actually owned a line production company, and we helped filmmakers from around the world come to BC and shoot in BC. So I'm very well aware of the tax credit incentives that we have over here. Currently, BC's tax credit rate is 28%. My friends in the NDP have proposed to increase it to 36%, as you have pointed out right now as well. Here lies the challenge. Tax credits don't solve everything, and I'll explain how. One, at 34%, the industry becomes revenue neutral for us. Anything above 34%, we actually lose a little bit of money as a province to get all those jobs here in BC. But B, if you look at production, Georgia, for example, now has great tax incentives. A lot of film jobs are going to Georgia, but London, UK does not. Disney, under the Marvel franchise, has moved all their productions from Vancouver, from Georgia, and doing all Marvel shootings in London, UK, which has a lower tax credits regime and incentive than what either Vancouver or Georgia has. What London has infrastructure. That's what we're hoping to do. That's what we're proposing to invest upon is, look, the tax credits work great, but they're not everything. We need to get our infrastructure in order so that we can compare it to the Londons of the world. And I see the orange light, so I'll be very quick. Most importantly, if there's any film people in the room, Bill C-11, which is a federal bill, but if you know in the film world, you know what I'm talking about. Bill C-11 is a big reason why a lot of commercial productions from Netflix Prime have left the country, and we lobby the government to make sure that that gets reversed.
Thank you. This is for all candidates, and we'll start with Mitchell. There has been an increase in shoplifting in BC over the past 3 years, along with an increase in random vandalism such as broken windows, violence against employees, and consumers facing employees having positions as they fear for their safety. If you form government or are independent in the legislature in Victoria, what will you do to prevent acts of violence against employees, as well as random acts of vandalism and increased shoplifting?
So we've all heard the term catch and release. It needs to stop. Most of these petty crimes are going unreported because the police are aware, or the victim is aware that nothing's really going to happen to the perpetrator. So why call the police? Why go through all of that? The police are going to come in. They may or may not arrest them. They get booked, and then they're back out on the street within the hour. That needs to stop. It's an expensive process. I get it, but what's it costing us in the end? So one of our clients and one of our friends has said that there's an incident, and I won't say the store or anybody's name, that one individual has stolen from the same store and been arrested 1,000 times. 1,000 times. They're having difficulty finding staff in another part of that store where they're getting tuna cans thrown in their head and spat on. We need to give the law the teeth and have the system keep these people so that this is no longer acceptable just to walk into a building, take what you want, and walk out. And the staff is afraid to approach them. They've been directed not to approach them for fear of being attacked or stabbed or whatever could happen to them. We need to give the law the teeth and give the police the confidence to arrest these people, knowing that they're going to not just be back out on the street within the hour.
I agree with my friend. This has to stop. The amount of personal violence that has occurred, the theft that is occurring, the vandalism that is occurring, the graffiti that is occurring, it needs to stop. And there's a variety of mechanisms that need to be put in place. And those are certainly a part of the work that needs to be done in the future. Working with the police to give them tools, working with the police to give them somewhere to take people, working with the justice system, working with the federal justice system so that we can make some changes so that we can actually hold people. That's work that's been undertaken and continues to happen. Because you're right, the vandalism has gotten out of hand. And we know that there's instances of personal violence that people are being subjected to. It has to stop. And part of that is making sure we've got somewhere for people who are recognized to be held. And not necessarily through the justice system, but where they can be held so that they can be sorted out in terms of, is it drugs? Is it an acquired brain injury? Is it an overdose? These things have to be sorted out in a way because a lot of the perpetrators that are doing these particular crimes are dealing with many, many underlying conditions. And so somehow or other, we've got to get a grip on that underlying piece. Do they have nowhere to live? Do they have no meals? We've got to stop. Thank you.
So my friend from the NDP says this has to stop, but they were in government for the last 7 years, and unfortunately, crime has only gone up since then. A 28% increase in crime since 2017. This has to stop. Catch and release needs to end. I agree with Mitch's position on that completely. Now, catch and release, laws are made in Ottawa, yes. However, the implementation of those laws is a provincial matter. It starts with investing in our prosecution services, so we actually have the resources to prosecute those who are causing these crimes. Zero tolerance for repeat offenders and zero tolerance for violent offenders. All of us saw the news story in downtown Vancouver where somebody walked in, known to the police, chopped a man's hands off, and killed another man. That is unacceptable in our society in 2024, and it's only become worse since decriminalization happened. Now, we also are proposing that as part of the judiciary, as part of the prosecution services, we will allow criminals who are maybe resorting to a life of crime because of a drug addiction or a mental health addiction, for judges to be able to prescribe rehabilitation instead of a criminal sentence. So they actually have a chance to get clean and get a true and fresh start in life. Thank you.
We'll start with Susie on this one, and this is regarding deficit and debt. What is your attitude regarding running a deficit, and do you have a timeline regarding eliminating the deficit and reducing the debt?
So we've had a few emergencies over the last couple of years. When I was elected, this work was done by Zoom. Why was that? It's because we couldn't get within 6 feet of each other because we were transmitting a disease that was actually fatal to many people. We've also gone through atmospheric rivers where we actually lost connection with the rest of Canada for a very short time, and our food security was threatened. Our fuel supply was threatened. We've also gone through fires that have been well beyond anything that British Columbia has ever seen before for a variety of reasons. Floods, fires, getting people vaccinated. All of those things cost money, and the choice is investing in people or at that point not going into a deficit. So yes, we are in deficit because we have been investing in people. We're also investing in people for nurses, for doctors, for ambulance providers, for police, all those things that our society and our communities need. We're investing in those things. All those things take money. Yes, we're in a deficit. We do have a plan in place to bring that deficit down steadily over the next 9 years. And we anticipate that we will continue on that trajectory. Thank you.
Mitchell, it's your turn.
So debt and deficit are an interesting thing. Our debt is at the end of this year, or I think it's the end of 2025, will be at approximately $129 billion, which is a staggering amount of money. So I don't think the emergencies are going to stop. I don't think we can say, hey, you know what, we're not going to have any more of these, and we've got a control on all the fires now, and the floods are going to stop. That's not what's going to happen. We need to tighten our fiscal belt. Period. We've been living beyond our means in this province for a long time, and that's provable by the amount of debt we're in. At home, if we're in debt, we're living beyond our means. As a province, if we're in debt, we're living beyond our means. That's really all there is to it. And it sucks to say there's going to be some hard decisions that have to be made. There's going to need to be some cuts made if we want to get back on track. The only way that money comes into this province is if we have resources to sell, whether it's a product that we come up with our brains, whether we're selling something that, some arts company would build in the computer world, or whether we're selling natural resources. The only way that we can bring money into this province to get out of this issue that we're in is to sell something that we haven't sold before. We can't just go in this never-ending circle where government grows and puts us into debt, and we just keep paying out of taxation out of a smaller number of people that are paying taxes. The only way we can do this is to sell resources or to sell brain resources. I'm not sure what the right word is there. Sorry, Seymour.
So before the writ dropped and the budget was announced, the NDP finance minister was asked about the record deficit because, this year we had a $7 billion deficit, which actually got revised to $9 billion afterwards. And she was asked, is there a plan to get the debt under control? And she said, yes, there is a plan to get the debt under control. It will be the future finance minister's problem. I am not making this up. COVID had a lot of emergency measures taken, a lot of money was spent, I agree on that front, but COVID was 4 years ago. That is no reason why our debt in 2024, our deficit in 2024 should be going up to $9 billion as well. Government, since 2017, government payroll has grown 71%, 71%. Some of that has gone to services that all of us here need, and we're very grateful for that. From 2010 to 2017, government grew at 3.9%. There's a huge difference between 3.9% and 71%. Yes, there's been new services being added, but surely and surely there is a lot of bloat and fat in there because for years we were able to operate by growing the government only 3.9%. So how are we now growing it at 71%? There's capital deficit, there's operational deficit. The NDP has taken us at a point from going from a capital deficit perspective to also now incurring operational deficit year over year, which is now causing the issue that we are in. And we plan to get the debt under control in 8 years. Because that's the only realistic timeline we have.
Starting with Susie. What specific actions would you take in the next 120 days, very specific here, to address homelessness in BC?
120 days. Thank you. 4 months. Well, one of the things that we are needing to do is make sure that we know where people are. Okay, I'm going to focus on North Van specifically, because in 120 days, I can't take it any further out, or I can't. Other people may be able to. So making sure we know where our people are and making sure that we know that they're linked up with resources. And that work is in fact happening. I don't know how many people know, but we now have what we call community liaison workers. They work out of North Shore Neighborhood House, and they're slowly but surely getting to people and helping them move into other options, looking for other places for them to live and helping them move into those options. The other component is to have somewhere that people, for instance, from the hospital, who come into hospital can go to, because we are, in my time at the hospital, we were discharging people to McDonald's. We were discharging people to boats. We were discharging people to their car. We're not doing that anymore. We are making sure that we are discharging people to a place that has somewhere that they can be served in the community. And that's what I would continue to do over the next 4 months, is to make sure that we identify those places, we identify those people, and we bring them together so that they are in a safe and secure environment. Thank you.
So I had a plan that I felt we could build 8 by 10 sheds out of the refuse stream of the houses that we tear down. We're not allowed to reuse that material. It ends up in recycling in a chipper, or we're not allowed to reuse the windows of the doors. We could, 5 guys in a matter of 6 hours could build an 8 by 10 shed that would be movable on the back of a truck into some of these fallow lots that are, some of them are government owned. Insulation doesn't care if it's been used before, so we can reuse that, because anything is better than a nylon tent. We can put a roof over people's heads. We can get them into something, just something, and then we can start to sort them out. As Susie has spoken about, we need to sort them out. We need to be able to help these people at least have the security that when they get up in the morning from whatever they're doing, that they don't have to worry about where their tent's going to be when they come home at night and where their belongings are going to be. So instead of spending money on cleaning up all the garbage every morning, why don't we spend it on having a secure area fenced where people are protected inside a single occupant building or a double occupant building if somebody has somebody else they're living with, in an 8 by 10 shed out of reused material. It could be built for basically nothing, and it would sit on property until there was more housing for them found, and then they could all be moved around into various different locations. The cost would be minimal, and we'd actually have people not living on the streets, but instead in a small, tiny building.
I agree with my friend Mitch, and I'll go one step further on that front, which is manufactured homes. We can build manufactured homes, put them in a facility in an area that's fenced off, like Mitch said, and just make sure that people have a place to wake up, people have a safe space that they can call home. It doesn't have to be built, with concrete and bricks and infrastructure. Manufactured homes are cheap, they're easy, they're fast to deploy, and we are hoping to end 10 cities by having supportive housing in the form of manufactured homes, dry facilities, just so people have a space, safe space they can call home. On the bigger picture, though, we also need to think of a way, how can we increase the supply of affordable housing here in the province? Because not everybody who is homeless right now, is because of addiction or mental reasons. Sometimes circumstances happen and people who are earning low-wage workers or middle-aged income workers also, become homeless. I look to Lower Lonsdale, where we have these 3-story apartment buildings, 20, 30 units in the apartments. They were built in the 1970s under a program called MURB, the Multi-Unit Residential Building Program. Developers got tax incentives to build true affordable housing. We define what affordable housing is. And then if a developer would build that, they would get a tax incentive to be able to do so. So now everybody, people like Mitch have a reason to actually go and build housing that is affordable, housing that is for the masses, and housing that average low income and middle income families can afford. And we want to bring in a 21st century version of MURB at the provincial level to dramatically increase the supply of safe, supportive, and affordable housing.
This one is for Mitchell. How will you, as an independent, have any influence on government policy if you are elected? Where do you differ from the NDP and conservatives on policies? That's kind of a double whammy there.
That's okay. I've been hit before. So, as an independent, we've talked about. I spoke briefly about this before. If this, which I believe will end up as a minority government, I will have much more sway because my vote will be much more wanted by either party that's in power or the other party, depending how close a minority we have. Regardless, I think you guys understand that when I speak, I'm generally a little stuttery tonight, but it's hard to ignore my voice, and I get that. I've had it my whole life. So I don't think I'm going to have a problem with influence. I'm a listener. I'm a consensus builder. So I will have the ability, and people will want that vote as an independent. The governing party, if it's a minority, will want that support. And if there's a few independents, there's an opportunity where decisions or legislation could come from both sides of the aisle and get support. So I differ in, obviously, the NDP. I disagree with the free drugs and some of the policies around the social policies. I also disagree with some of the social policies of the Conservatives, but somewhere in there lies the truth. I'm much more middle of the road than either side will portray themselves to be. Am I out?
Sam, this is for you. What are the 3 actions you will take to drastically improve the traffic congestion east of Seymour? Please be clear and specific with measurable actions.
With measurable actions.
Measurable actions.
We will take a ruler and start measuring the, no. First measurable action, dedicated east-west roads. We have one going from Main Street to Seymour, and then, we all saw what happened a few weeks ago. That was being taken away. First measurable action is going to be, we're going to keep that dedicated road into Seymour. We are not going to let the Ministry of Transportation take that away from us. And we're looking to see if can we build more east-west corridors that are for local traffic, not for people who are trying to get on that bridge. One. Two, I've talked about the bridge. It's the thing I like to talk about the most. We want to get a new bridge going. We have a commitment from the party to say we will be looking to invest in our infrastructure and get a new bridge going. Now, I'm not going to promise that you'll have a new bridge built in 4 years. I can't do that, and nobody can do that. But what I can commit to saying, look, if we form government, hold our feet to the fire, that we want to at least break ground and get construction started on a new bridge in a 4-year time span. That is a commitment. I'm here. This is live on YouTube. It's recorded. Come back to me in 4 years and tell me I did not do that if I did not do that. And number 3, I'm sorry, sir? No, sir, no toll bridge. I think I answered that question earlier when the question around tolls came up, and I said no in 4 different languages, but I will say it again, no tolls on the bridge. That is not part of the conservative platform at all. Number 3 is access to more transit. Look, I would love to be able to say we want to get SkyTrain in here as well, but I think the realistic option in the next 2, 3, 4 years is going to be the extension of the rapid bus line going from Phipps to
I have one more question for Susie, and then we're going to go to an open mic, and you can ask the questions of the candidates directly. So buckle your seatbelts. Susie, the NDP in the last election said they would not approve LNG projects, but they did anyway. You opposed Site C and then ran with it, which was the right move, finally, in caps. Why should we believe any promises your government makes now?
You want me to be able to walk home tonight? Okay, so a lot of the things that we're talking about, Site C and the LNG projects have actually been in work long before our government came into being. We have, in fact, approved another LNG project that's in conjunction with our Indigenous partners. And it is work that is being very carefully scrutinized and monitored to be sure that it is meeting the environmental targets that have been set through the Clean BC program. This is something that is been very critical within the NDP government, is making sure that we are still able to sustain British Columbia's meet and sustain British Columbia's energy needs while continuing to augment them with cleaner energy and transition slowly but surely to green energy. There's a number of projects out there. We've got geothermal projects happening. We've got solar plant projects happening. We've got wind projects happening. We've got a variety of hydroelectric stuff going on. Those are all out there. But yes, we still have LNG because LNG is a way that a variety of, oh, I'm in my red. Okay, I'm going to stop. Thank you. Sorry.
This is a big question.
Lots more to say.
All right. Now, does anybody have questions from the audience? Yeah. We'll just, if you want to go into the central
I'm
aisle
going to give
here.
you that mic. We like this mic.
Does it work better? Okay. I think it's 1 minute. Just a second. Yeah, 1 minute. 1 minute. Yeah. What happened? It's not a good night for techie stuff.
Also, one mic and just run it back and forth.
Yeah,
Let's just use that mic and run it back and forth. Yeah.
at least it works. That's it.
If I fall on my face, don't laugh.
It's an exercise program.
Check 1, 2. There we go. It's a question for Sam. In regards to John Rustad's support for Nuremberg 2.0 trials and Susie's work as a nurse vaccinating people during the pandemic, would you prefer to prosecute and jail her for crimes against humanity, or would you like to see her executed?
I'm not sure that's an appropriate question, so don't even answer it, Sam.
I will answer it.
Oh,
I'm happy to answer. I've always said I've had a lot of respect for Susie for the work she's done for the community as a nurse. I said that to you the first day we met at Parkgate. John Rustad and I, we agree on a lot of things that are the biggest problems we need to solve for our in the province: economy, healthcare, housing. I told John when I first decided to run, I don't agree with you on certain issues, on some social issues. And you know what he said? He said, that's okay. I just want you for your skills and acumen for solving healthcare, housing, and economy. And to that credit, he's willing to open and he's willing to learn. He's received a statement saying that he did misunderstand the question. I don't know where Michael is. Michael, so he did say he misunderstood the question as well. So I don't think that was a fair representation of what he said. And is it my time over? Okay. And, sorry, coming back to the question at hand. The important aspect is that this is a party that is willing to have a lot of different opinions. There's a lot of moderate, reasonable voices like me that have joined the party in the last 6, 7, 8 months. Do we have a couple of fringe voices? Yes, I'm not going to make an excuse for that, but I will let you know that I'm here as a fighter for North Vancouver, Seymour, with a conscience, and I will do the right thing and I will vote for my constituents, even if it means voting against the party sometimes.
So none of us in this room are getting any younger. And most of us are going to be facing the unfortunate perils of dementia. Now, this ravaged my family, and I don't want it to ravage my life. And I don't want to see it ravage anybody else's. And neither does the province of Quebec. So that's why they passed advanced requests for MAID options and their Attorney General is not going to prosecute any doctor who performs them. Will you, if elected, also try to offer this option for BC citizens so that we can at least have a choice at some stage in our life as it begins to deteriorate to have a dignified death?
I think that's a yes or no question, so can you just? Well, will you? Yes, you.
Okay, so I have a little insider knowledge because I'm the one that moved the petition from David through the legislature. And what the gist of it is that for people to be able to, as they are deteriorating, be able to delegate a responsible individual to make a decision for them if they reach a certain conditions that are already established by the individual and by the person responsible. And from my perspective as a nurse, I think that the medical assistance in dying allows people to make a decision to die with dignity in the time and place that they want to do so. There is also always going to be controversy. There's always going to be concerns. But yes, I will support the capacity of MAID to be designated by an individual and worked with by a person so that it is available as decided by the individual who wants to utilize it. Thank you so much.
My answer will be very quick. There are not a lot of things that my friend Susie and I agree on, but we agree on this. I believe in individual liberty, and I believe in everybody having the right to their dignity. And on my personal vote, I will vote with Susie on this topic.
My answer is yes. We were asked this question in an email to basically all the candidates, And of course, it's the first time that the advanced portion of that was ever brought to my attention. I read it and did quite a bit of in-depth study on it, and I feel that if we are granted that opportunity and we want to take it, then I don't see anything wrong with it. I've had some people in our life just very recently that have used MAID. They got cancer and died quite suddenly, and they didn't want to suffer through it. And it's very sad, and they're young people. And I think if we can have a DNR, then we can have advanced MAID.
Thank you. This is for all three of you, but let's start with Susie since you're the incumbent. What do you think of the state of education in BC? And let's specifically talk about high schools. And I'll lead you in your answer by saying, what would you do to improve things?
And they only give me 1 minute. So, our high schools are crowded. In North Vancouver, in Surrey, in many other communities, they're crowded. And that's one of the things that I would really work towards, is to make it so that our classroom sizes are somewhat smaller. We need more teachers. We've got to get teachers available not only through our own training systems, but allow people that are internationally trained, get them available much faster so that they can be teaching in our system. We've also implemented mental health support, and we will continue to do so, because what we're finding is a lot of our high school kids are dealing with almost crippling anxiety, and for a variety of reasons. And the mental health support is going to be a very big part of that. The other part is to make sure that there's places for them to go after high school, that they have opportunities, whether it be in trades, whether it be in further academics or going straight into jobs, that they know they have a vocation to go to. Thank you so much.
Look, our PISA scores have gone down by 2 points right now. Students right now in our high schools, they are not doing as well as their future competitors in other parts of the world. And that is a problem that needs to be addressed. We need to go back to the basics: science, technology, engineering, mathematics. That is a big focus of what we need in this province if we want to compete with the world in the 21st century. The other thing I'll say is around school funding. Currently, the school funding model, you see how many students there are in the month of September, and you're given funding for the whole school year based on those number of students. However, if the number of students increase over the course of the years, because people are moving into the province and then new students are going to the schools, there is no additional funding that is coming for schools at this point of time. So we want to look at a model where schools are funded on a continuous basis and not just once in the month of September, to make sure that we have the necessary funding to be able to support education, to not cut programs, and to not make teachers go part-time. Thank you.
Mitchell?
So I'm fortunate enough right now to have two girls that are in high school. So and it's been a pretty good experience for them so far. They like their classes, they like their teachers, they're doing well in school. This year, with the cell phone being removed from the classroom, I asked them the other day, how's that going? They're like, it's really good. Some of those teachers already did that. So, but the balance of them haven't, and I was concerned. I know how much time they spend on the phone because they text me in the middle of the day. So that was step one for me. Then I talked to a few teachers who were friends of ours, and I'm like, what's going on? We have a lack of support in the classroom. We have disruptive kids. We have where we were supposed to have support, and we're not getting that. We need to get that back into the classroom. I have friends that want to be teachers who have finished the course, and they've been waiting 8 months to get their accreditation, even though they're done. So we have to speed that process up. We're lacking for teachers, and there's teachers sitting in the wings waiting to teach. So we have to speed the process up. We have to add some more funding and get the funding into the right place.
First, I just wanted to thank you all for such thoughtful answers this evening. I thought it was a very good evening and good information, so thank you. Susie, this question is for you. When Premier Eby stepped into office, when Premier Horgan stepped down, he inherited a substantial surplus in the books. And he's managed to turn that around into, in a couple of years, to a $9 billion deficit, which we're going to need to take care of. My question to you is, will you continue to support ongoing deficit spending? And I've heard in the previous questions that there is supposedly a plan to do this, but as we've seen, there has been a bit of runaway spending this year. Will you continue to support the ongoing increasing deficits of your party?
I've been very lucky in that our caucus is very tight and works together and gets to be part of decision-making, which I understand from other caucuses across the country, both federal and the federal caucus is not necessarily the same. Our party works together, and our party works together on making decisions that are in the, towards supporting people, towards supporting everybody in the province to get their feet solidly underneath them, to be able to have healthcare when they want it, where they want it, and when they need it, to be able to have a good education, to be able to have a lifestyle that is affordable in terms of rent, in terms of groceries. We're still working on the deficit. Yes, there is a plan to work it down. The deficit spending will probably continue for a little while longer as we bring ourselves out of the variety of crises that we have been dealing with for the last 4 years. But I will support our party. However, I will continue with all of us to monitor. Express concern, which was the last 2 words.
Thank you. This question is for Susie. The municipalities in British Columbia have been legislated by your government to take significant housing density beyond our local official community plans that have been in place for many years. We have had no choice but to take this because you applied this legislation without consultation with local municipalities. The North Shore in the next 20 years is being identified by having to absorb 60,000 units of housing under the legislation. I'm wondering what your government is going, or how your government is going to pay for the expanded infrastructure needed within these municipalities, given that we have no choice but to do what you're telling us to do under the law.
And here I thought this wasn't getting personal. Anyway, you know, the province has been growing. Right, for the last 3 years, we've getting over 100,000 people into the province. A lot of those people are coming to the Greater Vancouver area, and people are wanting and coming to North Vancouver. It is surprising to say that other municipalities need to grow and densify when some municipalities don't. The other side of this is when I'm door knocking, people say to me, gee, there's nowhere for my kids to live here. There's nothing affordable for my kids. Or I'm a senior and I want to downsize and I can't find anywhere to live. That growth is important. It is important that the municipality be involved. It is important that we work together. Thank you for the question.
This question is for all the candidates. Globally, younger generations completely dwarf older generations, and yet this is very symptomatic of the problem. I look around the room and I'm 35 years old, and I think I'm probably one of the 5 youngest people here. Consistently, we see young people are extremely political nowadays. They're always talking about events that are happening, but when it comes time to put the money where the mouth is, they consistently fail to show up. I'm wondering, and I believe social media for that, for giving us a platform where we feel like we're making a difference without actually making a difference. I'm wondering what you would do to increase youth involvement and young voters' involvement into politics, where they can actually make a difference and put their policies and their opinions to use in actually helping the government shape the world they want to live in.
Yeah. Start with Sam.
That is a fabulous question. And it's a tough question. I would say it's the toughest question we've probably got this evening. You know, how do we get young voters more engaged? Look, I'm probably closest to you in terms of age of the candidates who are here on the floor. And like what I've been trying to do, I can just speak to that right now. I've been trying to meet the young voters where they are. I've been trying to meet them on social media. I've been trying to talk to them, where they are. It's not always working. It doesn't always work. There is a lot of apathy right now with the younger generation. And I think part of the apathy stems from the fact that they think they don't have a choice. And frankly, they think they're screwed. Odds are stacked against young people right now. And I understand that. There's a lot of threats coming. AI is coming and taking away 1/3 of all early stage jobs in 2030 as well. And I understand that as well. I think we just need to find ways to let young people understand that their voice matters. They are one of the largest voting blocs in this country. It's a question of how do we just get them to get way more engaged? And I will let you answer that part of the question.
I'm very lucky. As an incumbent, I've had young people from the high schools working in my office with me. As a candidate, I've got a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 23-year-old, all part of my campaign staff, which is spectacular. I don't believe that as a post-60-year-old that I should be making all the decisions for the people that have to inherit what's coming. I think the youth really does need to be organized. We have been having in the current, in the last 4 years, we've had a provincial youth caucus group that was brought together by one of our members, and we're trying desperately hard to engage youth and have them part of. I would love to see somebody stepping up and saying, hey, let me be the MLA, let me start to make some of the decisions for my generation. However, we're not seeing that as yet, and I think there's a whole bunch of things that we can do to engage people, which includes like going and talking to schools and being part of the different youth environments. Thank you.
So when I was in my early 20s, we were all sitting around a campfire. Somebody was singing, we were playing guitar, but then we started all complaining. And we complained a lot, as everybody does, sitting around a campfire, enjoying yourself. And my mom walked in, and my mom was the leader, one of the leaders of this community for quite a while. And she walked in and she says, listen, I've heard all you kids sit around here and bitch about stuff. What are you going to do about it? Well, it's taken me 35 years to get there. But I think that 35 years is the time we grow. I think that's the time we come out of school, we get a job, we go to work, we understand what it's like to pay bills. I have a belief that we should only be allowed to run for government after the age of 40 and be out by the time we're 70. I think we'd have a far greater dynamic where everybody's had a chance to go and see what the world was all about and then come back. But the only way we're going to get the young people and people involved in it is by talking about it without having it be a polarized conversation where I don't like you and I don't like what you said. It has to be a positive conversation, but that's incumbent upon all of us to make that conversation possible.
Good evening. I think ICBC has got a free ride tonight, so let's see if we can do something about that. I'm a cyclist. I commute to work all the time. 20 years, I've only been hit once, not bad. I think it was 2019, somebody was in a bike lane, riding along, got run over by a car, over the hood of the car. ICBC came back and said, well, it's no fault insurance, and was trying to charge the cyclist for the repairs to the car. So it hit the newspapers, everybody freaked out. ICBC, oh no, it was an error. So with HUB, North Shore Cycling Coalition, and a bunch of others, we went and we had a lawyer, and they said, that's exactly what ICBC is allowed to do. They control who gets paid, but they also control the decision-making process. You cannot go and sue under ICBC rules for getting hit by a car while being in a bike lane, aside from all the other litigation things. So are you guys all happy with ICBC, if this is for all of you, or is it time to say maybe this no fault has just gone a little too far?
I know it may not look like it, but I was quite a cyclist and still am. So cycling and bike lanes, that's a completely different topic. But to make a long story short, ICBC, I don't believe in no fault. My father's in a long-term care facility with one of the first victims of that. His name is Paul. And he has young kids younger than mine, and he's in a long-term care facility because they won't rebuild his house or help him rebuild his house, and he has no option to sue. It's a horrible model. I spend a lot of money on insurance. I own a lot of cars. That's by choice, not for business, but for pleasure. But I'm willing to pay more money if that's what it takes to have people insured properly. ICBC is no longer an insurance company. They're just a monopoly that's collecting money.
Well, it's a case of ICBC playing the judge, the jury, and the executioner all at the same time. And I think we have something called separation of powers in this country. So why should that not apply to ICBC itself? Look, no fault, in my opinion, was a good idea in theory when gone completely wrong in terms of execution. And we've got stories like what you told me and the stories that Mitch was just talking about. So, my stance on that is very clear. I am not in favor of no fault. We need to repeal that. That is the stance of the party as well right now. Thank you.
And surprisingly, I agree that we need to review it. Absolutely, because there is various things that are coming up that are just saying it's not working well and it needs to be revised. And when in the event that I am back in government, I will be asking for that review and that revision, because I heard in 2019, I heard in 2022 with some other things that were going on. There's been a lot of work done in looking at what ICBC does, but there is still a lot more work to do, and that work will get done. Thank you.
I just wanted to go back to you, Susie, to see if you could give us an answer to the question that was posed earlier about what the NDP's plan is as far as financial assistance for infrastructure for the housing that's being proposed in the area.
The NDP does recognize that infrastructure is a part of building. There are funds that are being put aside to support municipalities with infrastructure. Can I tell you numbers? No, I can't. I'm sorry. At the moment, I'm not in a position to do that because I don't know, and I don't have access to that information right now. There is money that is going towards infrastructure. Some has already been released. Quite a bit has already been released. So what I would like to do, if it's all right with you, is once I can find out, I'll try and get back to you if I can get some information of how to do that. Would that be all right? Because I really don't know how to give you decent information in response to that question. Thank you so much.
And I'm going to take a turn, if you don't mind. And this is for Susie. Regarding affordable housing, nothing new is affordable. And increased density only increases the land value. So please explain to me how Bill 44, 46, 47 is supposed to address affordable housing.
Thanks so much for the question. Part of the challenge is that for many years, housing stock just wasn't built. So what we are is far behind the housing stock that we need for the people that we have and for the people that keep coming to British Columbia. We also are looking at a variety of housing being built affordable housing being built in conjunction with some of our nonprofit organizations, with the rental protection fund that's been put in place, which looks at places that are already low rent or supportive, not supportive, assisted rent environments that are possibly being sold by developers. Those are being bought by the government and run by a nonprofit. We've got one in North Vancouver that was just talked about on 6th. We've got 16 properties across the province that are now under the Rental Protection Fund. There's a whole variety of steps being taken, and I'm out of time and have lots more to say, so I'm sorry about that.
Thank you. This is for all the candidates. My question is, how do you support the unions of British Columbia? My personal experience is I'm a single mother. I've worked in the film industry for 27 years. I bought a pre-sale condo after saving for 9 years to create a down payment. And since COVID, since the large strike last year, and since the loss of production due to large full spend incentives across the globe, BC is no longer competitive. So Sam, that was my question earlier. We have the infrastructure already. Many organizations within the film unions have approached both parties to explain what we need. We don't need infrastructure. The UK has 40% tax incentive on total spend. We are asking for a small increase in labor spend only, which goes directly into the pockets, into my pockets, so I can feed my family. I remember under Christy Clark's Liberal government, of which John Rustad was a part, they decreased our tax incentives by 5%. My income has been declining ever since. The NDP.
Please ask your question.
How do you support the labor unions of British Columbia?
Good job.
It's a tough question to answer within the 1 minute span, but I will try as well. Look, I understand the pain you're feeling in the industry. I have a lot of friends who also work in the industry. I was part of the industry. The SAG strike and the Writers Guild strike, led to an unprecedented amount of work being lost here in BC as well. And the question is, how do we bring that work back? I wish I could stand here and tell you, we will increase the tax credits, to what my friend in the NDP is proposing to be able to help get that work back over here. But I don't want to lie to you. I'm not going to tell you something that, I know we will not be able to do. And the reason is what I said earlier. At 34%, the industry becomes revenue neutral, and anything beyond that, the province actually loses money on the issue as well. I'm sorry you disagree with me on that. I'm happy to have a detailed conversation with you afterwards you'd like. I give you my phone number. You can, call me, text me, or my email, and I'm more than happy to find a way to make it move forward. I would love to get that production back over here as well. This is an industry that a lot of my friends work in. It's just a question of how do we do it in a sustainable manner that makes sure we don't already increase the deficit that the province already has.
Thanks for sharing the impact of the last couple of years. I know the writers' strike was hideous, and then it was followed up. And I'm fortunate that I actually work with somebody who, in my constituency office as the sitting MLA, who is part of the film industry and was advising me of the hurt that the film industry, IATSE, and the various groups were going through. It is disheartening to see film work leaving British Columbia because of tax breaks. And that has been recognized. I don't know if you know Bob Deeth, who was the parliamentary secretary for arts. His focus has been really tight on working with the film industry to look at ways to do exactly what you're talking about. And my belief is that we will be doing that work and implementing some steps that will make a difference in your pocketbook and in how your family does. Thank you.
I have one more question for Susie that
Wait a
I
minute.
forgot.
Mitchell
sorry.
has an answer.
Okay, go.
Thanks so much.
So we had a similar question last night, and I made a joke, and nobody's seen my movies, so that's fine. I am an IATSE 891 member. I worked in film for 7 years while building houses on the side. One of the sad parts about the film industry is they travel in trucks with wheels on them so they can leave. And we have we have the infrastructure, we have the crews. The sad part about all this is that we have some of the greatest actors and talent that the world has ever known, and they're from this city, and we're very limited in them coming back here to build. LA used to be we were in the same time zone, so it was easy to get back and forth. But since 2016, $18 billion of film work went into Georgia. So we're having a really tough time competing. I don't know the numbers on the taxation of what was the model that Samartha's speaking about, but certainly I would get back into that.
You want to say something? No? Okay. This last one is for Susie. Sorry. Oh, sorry, somebody, I didn't see you earlier. Go ahead.
That is being promoted as a $10 childcare. I'm a childcare provider for 23 years. And I want to see if you guys still going to do it, because a $10 daycare is not actually $10 daycare. And it actually costs the childcare quality is really low. The government, the reason is really low because the government controls all the our financials. You're not allowed to increase the childcare. You're not allowed to. You have to ask questions. You have to literally audit it to be able to increase our fees. I went last year 2 or 3 months to get, the parents the grants. We worked for the parents to get the grants, none question asked, and also decided to get subsidy. I think this is a waste of money and time of everyone. The only one who gets benefited is some, parents. They do. I am on the side of the parents, but some of the parents that I see, they're really in need of a good subsidy. Good.
What is your question, please?
My question is, that was supposed to be in training. I mean, it was supposed to be tryout. Do you guys think that you're still going to do that? Because I don't think with the childcare providers it's not working. A lot of childcare providers are getting upset because we work 7 to 6 o'clock and then we go home. We have to give the paper.
Thank you. Susie will answer your question. Thank you.
Okay, and what I'm hearing from you is partly the administrative burden associated with being a $10 a day provider. Am I correct? Okay, yeah.
If instead of giving grants, isn't that more logical that we do the subsidy, bring the wages a bit higher, make the range higher, make it wider, then more parents can use the subsidy instead of that question asking people the grant. Because some people, they don't need the grants. There are families that they're not in the need of the grant.
Thank you.
So,
Thank
okay,
you.
I'm hearing a couple of questions in what you're saying. So one, I'm going to start with the administrative burden, which the $10 a day childcare, when we started in 2020 with working with the feds to implement that, the average cost for childcare per day across the province was $52 a day. At this time, the average cost is $17 a day, and it's still going down. So there are some benefits of the program because people are being able to utilize it. We're seeing a greater uptake in employment of women in particular. People are coming back to work because they can find safe childcare. And we're also seeing a lot more people who are able to be able to have more money back in their pocket because childcare is costing them a lot less between the benefits. So I'm not answering all of your questions. I understand that. The administrative burden has been noted and is being worked on. And I thank you so much for the work that you do. And I hope you will come back to us and talk more about this once whatever government is in place and help us to sort it out. Thank you. I think you need to stop though, okay? Please.
That's good, thank you. I know it's a difficult subject, but we're running out of time. This last question I should have asked of Susie earlier. Last week, the NDP government announced plans to fast-track bus rapid transit from North Shore to Metrotown. TransLink website makes it clear that bus rapid transit must have a dedicated lane. How are you going to mitigate the effects of this change on Marine Drive, 3rd Street, Main Street to Phibbs Exchange, and over the deck of the Ironworkers Bridge if one lane and all of those roads goes to rapid transit?
I'll have it fixed by Friday.
Really? Oh, okay.
If that's okay, I'll just wave my magic wand and make it fixed. Much bigger brains than I have been involved in putting the plan together for this rapid bus transit, starting with Bowen in 2017. She worked with the Mayor's Council, she actually was working with the 3 levels of government, federal, municipal, and provincial, to work on getting transit increased and improved in North Vancouver. The rapid bus transit is something that is by far much less expensive and much more functional to put into place than either a SkyTrain or a light rapid rail, and it also acts as a precursor for that work down the way. You're right, it's going to be a big challenge. Do I have the answer? No, I do not, because I don't know enough about it, and I have to be honest about that. I need to be briefed on this. So the work has been planned out by a group of people that are expected to do this work, and I will be interested in seeing the plans just like the rest of.
Amazing. Oh, okay.
So the traffic that we're dealing with and getting across North Vancouver is brought on by the bridge. It's brought on by the bridge. If we can drain the bridge traffic, we don't have a problem getting across North Vancouver. It's not about getting from Park Royal to Phibbs Exchange. It's about getting across the bridge, and that'll open all the lanes up so we can get from Park Royal to Phibbs Exchange. It's a fairly simple math equation. If you drain the traffic over the part of the, if we're all sitting in the same traffic to go not to the same place, we need the bridge, first and foremost.
New bridge. Okay, I think we're going to move to. Oh, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to add the one line, and to get a bridge, vote for a conservative government.
Well, which? What did you say? Okay. Okay. Okay, we're going to start with Mitch. You have 1 minute to make your closing comments. Oh, does it? Oh, 2 minutes then, I lied. Yes, it's 2. Yep.
Okay, I'll keep it short then. Okay. Easy now. So I had this thing all written, and I'll read some of it, and then I'll make some of it up, and it'll sound terrible. We're on a precipice. We need to change course. What we've been doing hasn't been working. We all know the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing and expecting a different result, but I refuse to believe that we're insane. We're an unprecedented juncture in this province's history. We have the ability in this election to change the political landscape of this province. We need to change our overburdened healthcare system. We need to spend a similar amount of money per capita on healthcare as the other 5 countries, but we are doing that, but we're in the 30th place ranking. Our education system is stretched to the max. Our teachers are burning out and leaving at unprecedented rates. Although many of us don't feel like it, we're living beyond our means here. We need a different model for drug addiction, housing, transportation, environmental protection, and resource management, to name but a few. I can't say that I have all the answers today, but I can say that with research and discuss each vote, on what is best for the community in this province. At 18 years old, when we were first allowed to vote, we were all fighting for our own independence. Now I'm asking you to fight again for an independent. Thank you.
Can I go down there? Yeah. Yeah, perfect. I just want to be here. It's easier. So we've had a lot of discussions today. There's a lot of noise, right, left, socialist, capitalist. I ask for a minute that let's take away all the noise away from this election. Let's take all the noise away. And what we are left right now is one very simple choice in this election. Do we want more of the same, or is it now time for a change? My friend Paul told me when he heard I was running, Sam, if you want to defeat the NDP, you have to tell the truth. And the truth is that the NDP has now been in government for 7 years. They inherited a budget surplus in 2017 and turned it into a deficit by 2024. They inherited a system with long healthcare wait times in 2017 and found a way to make them even longer wait times in 2024. Housing costs have doubled from 2017, and our drug crisis is now the shame of the world. It's time to accept the fact that the NDP policies and the NDP action has failed you and me on housing, has failed you and me on healthcare, it has failed you and me on our traffic, it has failed you and me on our economy. It's time to accept that the experiment has not worked out. It's time to move on, and it's time to start following evidence instead of following ideology. Most importantly, it's time to stop mistaking action for achievement, because that's all I've been hearing. We have done X and we have done Y and we have done Z, but I'm sorry, it's been too little, too late. You had your chance and now it's time to change. And I'm asking you for your vote, for your support, so we can start finding common grounds, we can start working towards common goals, and we can start implementing common sense change. That is my promise and the BC Conservative promise to you. Thank you.
I've been the incumbent for the last 4 years. There are many people in this audience that know that I am accessible. I work for people. I advocate for people. I am respectful of people, their needs and their concerns. And my job as a representative and an advocate continues and will continue if I'm continuing to be your MLA. I am a people person. I am all about people, as is my party. Do we want to have the Conservatives cut? They're talking about cuts to healthcare. I heard it. Cuts because things are bloated. I'm sorry, has anybody been to a hospital lately? What's bloated is how many people are in there, how many patients are in there, not how many nurses are in there, not how many healthcare clinicians are in there. In our schools, do we need cuts to teachers? Do we need cuts to schools? Do we need to stop building schools? That's how the deficit will get managed by the Conservatives. The NDP is going to be managing that deficit, yes, but they're also going to continue to invest in people because there's so much that needs to be done and continues to be done and always will need to be done, but it has to be based on people. That's me. That's Susie. Thank you.
Well, that's it. On behalf of all of us who've organized this evening, I would like to thank you for joining us. I hope you found it helpful in making your decisions. So speaking of that, how many now know who they will vote, or how many don't know still yet? No hands. Good.
We're all coming to talk to you, sir, right now.
So I'd like to thank the candidates for participating this evening, and I hope you feel that it was your time well spent. And before I adjourn the meeting, this meeting was organized by these 3 community associations, and we're always looking for people to get involved. So if you want to get involved, there's lots of different things to do. Blue Ridge especially is very active. Just contact one of us and I'm sure they'll find something for you to do. Thank you.